Welcome to Quick Takes with Kevin, a weekly podcast about leadership, life, and ministry with Kevin Ezel, president of the North American Mission Board. Each week, Kevin will be focusing on how pastors can keep their souls healthy in the midst of the demands and challenges of everyday life. Now, here's your host, Kevin Ezel.
Hey, it's Kevin Ezel from the North American Mission Board. Here today with my good friend and pastor, Andy Addis, who's pastor of Crosspoint Church in Hutchinson, Kansas.
That's right.
And normally as a Kentucky boy, we don't prefer things from Kansas, but you are one of those, man. You get an exception.
I will take that clause. I appreciate it.
Hey, as we've been going through a book called Replenish, and one of the chapters, chapter 15, that talks about obscurity. And you know, Andy, God has blessed your ministry in an incredible way, but there have been times, I'm sure, where you felt all alone and obscure, like, man, I'm out here in Hutchinson, Kansas. Does anybody even know I'm here? Or, you know, those times that you felt a bit isolated. Would you just want to share what you did to walk through that isolation, or was it a positive, a negative, or how you responded?
Absolutely. You know, we were joking beforehand, getting ready for this, that I was introduced at an SBC meeting once as the megachurch pastor nobody knows.
That's right.
And it was laughable in the moment, but there was a reality to it, because coming from Kansas and coming from a small church that's become a multi-site, I would say that the first thing I would remember is that there is a danger in this day and age that when you feel the obscurity, that you try and fill that void with social media.
Yeah.
Can I get likes? Can I get followers? Can I get good responses?
Right.
And it doesn't matter where you are. Everybody can reach out and tweet. Right. And so if you do that, and I got caught in that trap from time to time, that when you feel like you're on your own, or you're out there and nobody knows, well, you turn to social media.
Yeah.
And that's not filling.
Yeah. Just bark louder.
Right.
You know?
And the response that you get there is so thin and so unworthy. Where I had to find my significance was, yes, in your family. We've talked about that before. You have to have that there. But within the people that you're working with, to be famous, if you will, amongst those that you're doing day-to-day life with is so much more valuable than to being famous amongst those who hear you on a weekend or know of you every now and then.
Right.
So for me, the battle to recognize that in obscurity you can serve, or in these lonelier places, it's to have the deeper relationships with people who are going to draw you towards Christ and not just pump you up.
Yeah.
It's to avoid the traps of likes and forwards and shares. And boy, I hate to be this super simplistic, but if you're not turning in your devotional life, if it is not deep and thick and rich, then you are going to continue to feel obscure.
Yeah, and at some point, who do you think you are? I mean, I mean, what to feel you got to be obscure? I mean, you have to evaluate your motives at some point and say,
Absolutely.
look, are you really doing it to be? I'm reminded of something that a guy named Adrian Rogers said years ago. He said when he stopped being the SBC president, and he was telling a guy, he said, look, I'm that. And he pointed to an exit sign. He goes, an exit sign? He goes, yeah, I'm an X-it. and he was just saying, look, if you put all of your, your esteem and who you are as a person by how popular you are, I mean, there comes a day where you're no longer that person. And, you know, I was talking to Tom Rayner the other day. He said, you know, it's amazing how many few phone calls he got the day after he retired from Lifeway. And I thought, if I'm not at NAM, there's probably 90% of my contacts perhaps, would not even want to return a call, because so often it's just because of what position you're in.
Well, yeah, and so what you're talking about is positional authority or positional recognition. And if you could build your life in such a way where the relationships that you have and the people that are meaningful to you would call you if you weren't in that position, or would care about you if you weren't there, then you're not obscure even when you're in that moment.
Exactly. And it goes back to family. My word, at the end of the day, I mean, you've just got to – I would just encourage a guy to check his motives if obscurity is that big a deal.
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's some advantages for people, for you feeling invisible. There's some huge advantages.
You know this, and I know this, that the minute you're actually in the media spotlight, you don't want to be there anymore, because it's never good.
Yeah, no. No.
That's when you long for some obscurity, right?
Yeah. And then people really don't. Yeah, that's what I learned is when I pastored, I could go to Cracker Barrel and fix any problem, And you come to NAM, and there's no Cracker Barrel big enough.
That's right.
There's just not.
That is right.
So, well, hey, tell me, what are some things in those moments of being invisible or obscure, those moments where, everybody goes through highs and lows, but what are some things that God's taught you through some of those challenging times? Because you're incredibly gifted, and Al jokingly introducing you that way.
Right.
But you actually your ministry is several times larger than people who have more public, visible opportunities, perhaps. And what are some things that God's taught you as you walk through that?
Well, again, I don't want to be too overly simplistic about it, but
I'm incredibly humble.
Yeah, that is not it. That is not the issue, although that was funny. I think one of the things that I've had to learn, and again, overly simplistic, is that there is going to come a day in which everything that we've done will be tested by fire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to think constantly on the things that I have done and that I'm pouring into and that I think have meaning, will they have value? Will they have the ability to stand that test? And it's really a litmus test for me to say, do I go speak here, or do I stay home and do this?
Right.
Do I take time to be a part of that, or do I take time to be a part of this?
Right.
Because the truth for me is I want the well done, good and faithful servant.
Absolutely. Well, Pastor, thanks for tuning in or listening today. And man, Andy's the type of guy that you want to model and to multiply. I mean, I appreciate how you allow God to use you, and man, thankful for the time today. Hang in there, Pastor. It's going to be okay.
Thanks for joining us for Quick Takes with Kevin. Each week, Kevin will visit with pastors and leaders as they talk about the challenges they face and the lessons they've learned in balancing faith, family, and ministry. Thank you for being with us.